We can talk to God about people. Grace and peace, everybody. Welcome to part 2 of our study of God's call to mission. We're looking at the life of Abraham to try to understand how we can fulfill God's mission in our lives. So today we're going to talk about Abraham's spirit of prayer. Spirit of prayer, because it's interesting that we really don't perceive this conversation as a prayer, but it actually is. And it's not just a prayer. It's a prayer not about Abraham, but it's a prayer about other people. In verse 22 of chapter 18, the men turned their faces from thence and went towards Sodom, but Abraham stood yet before the Lord. Yes, this is the Lord. The Lord Jesus Christ is showing up to his doorstep, and Abraham realizes, I've got an audience with the King of Kings. They're on a mission, these angels, but I'm going to see if I can engage him on other people's behalf. We would call that today intercession. The idea of talking to God, not about ourselves, but talking to God about someone else or on their behalf. And that's exactly what Abraham does. And it's a part of being a missionary. In verse number 23, Abraham drew near and he says, wilt thou also destroy the righteous with the wicked? So this was Abraham leaning in. He drew near. We can talk to God about people. That makes a whole lot more sense than talking to people about other people. Because as good as it might feel to us, it really doesn't do anything to the situation. In fact, it can actually harm the situation. We used to call it gossiping back in the day, but now we call it posting. And I have found that social media, one of its other negative assets and benefits, is that it's taken the idea of intercession and even the idea of conversation, and it's relegated it to putting something on a board that we think the other person might see, but more often than not, they never see. Because they're not in our feed, because they're not our friends, how do we anticipate they're going to find out about it? And worse yet, we just feed other people who are feeding off of our own negativity, our own animus, and our own frustrations. So what if we took those, which is natural to have, the frustrations, the anxieties, the animus, and all of that, and talk to one, and not just one, but the one who actually has the power to change them and change you. That's what intercession is. That's why we've got to do like the song says. We got to recognize that you can talk about me just as much as you please, but I will talk about you down on my knees, not just on my feed. Because in Genesis 18:27, Abraham answers the Lord and says, behold, now I've taken upon me to speak unto the Lord, which am but dust and ashes. Folks, we're 4 verses later than the verses that we just quoted. That means that there was a conversation going on. And one of the assurances that we can have is that when we talk to God about other people, he's going to talk to us. He will respond. He will dialogue with us. And that's exactly what he does to Abraham. And he doesn't do it to Abraham because it's Abraham. God does it because God is God. So whether it's Abraham, whether it's Aaron, whether it's Eric, whether it's Abigail, whether it's Kanisha, whether it's Ron, or whether it's Tyler, whoever you are, you can talk to God about other people. And he has committed himself. When we do it in sincerity and even in our frustration, he's committed to engaging us just as much as he's promised to engage them. I want to encourage us to embrace this in our effort to reach others, because we always also end up reaching ourselves.